You have a lot on your plate right now, but I want to start on the news of the day. President Trump was watching today's testimony. That was made clear because he tweeted about Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch. Everywhere she turned went bad. And then he listed a number of posts she'd been at. Said, fast forward to Ukraine, where the new Ukrainian president spoke unfavorably about her. It is the president's right to appoint ambassadors. Why do you think he was tweeting about her?
Because he knows, well, he made a mistake, and he knows her strength, and he was trying to undermine it. Of course, presidents appoint ambassadors, but people don't insult people, especially when they're giving testimony before the Congress of the United States. I think even his most ardent supporters have to honestly admit this was the wrong thing for the president to do.
The White House said it was just his opinion. He wasn't trying to intimidate. What do you think?
What the president and perhaps some at the White House have to know that the words of the president weigh a ton. They are very significant, and he should not frivolously throw out insults. But that's what he does. I think part of it is his own insecurity as an imposter. I think he knows full well that he's in that office way over his head, and so he has to diminish everyone else.
Do you think that was witness intimidation in your book? Is that something that needs to be looked into?
So quite frankly, I've been busy trying to keep government open, pass a trade bill, pass a Voting Rights Act, lower prescription drug prices, and the rest. I haven't had a lot of time to pay attention to the president's tweets and the legal implications of them. I just think it was totally wrong and inappropriate and typical of the president.
When you tweeted today, you said Ambassador Yovanovitch was viciously smeared by Trump allies, removed from her post, and then threatened by the president. What part of that amounts to an impeachable offense or a crime?
Well, there are many things that the president does that are completely out of the question that are not impeachable, and they're about the election. If you think that he's a coward not to pass gun violence prevention to save lives, if you think he's cruel to dreamers for not passing legislation, both of those bills having tremendous support in the public, if you think he's in denial about climate, the list goes on. Take that up in the election. If you think his behavior is totally beneath the dignity of the White House, take that up in the election. But when it comes to violating the Constitution of the United States, as he undermines our national security, jeopardizes the integrity of our elections, dishonors his own oath of office, that's about impeachment.
So the Constitution defines an impeachable offense as treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors.
Yes.
What do you think applies to this case?
We are unfolding the facts. That's what an inquiry is about. And so, again, I have confidence in our committees who have been working on this. Right now, it's in the hands of the Intelligence Committee, largely, not completely, but largely. I'm very proud of the leadership of Adam Schiff and each and every one of our members on the committee. But we are unfolding the facts.
You used the term bribery.
Yeah, I was translating from the Latin. That was in the context of e pluribus unum, for many one, and so I said for many one, quid pro quo, bribery. Yeah, that's what that is. Mm-hmm.
So, but do you expect that to be one of the articles?
I have no idea. There's not even a decision made to impeach the president. Mm-hmm. This is a finding of fact, unfolding of the truth, and then a decision will be made. And that is a decision that goes beyond me.
Well, you point out factually, right, that vote has not taken place to proceed necessarily with impeachment. But do you think you'll go through all of this and not vote to impeach the president?
That remains with the facts of the president has information that demonstrates his innocence in all of this, which we haven't seen. His transcript of a phone call is tucked away in a highly sensitive, compartmentalized intelligence server, so we can't see that. If he has information that is exculpatory, that means X, taking away blame, then we look forward to seeing it.
But do you think that you will be able to convince Republicans to vote to impeach the president? Can you make this a bipartisan vote?
No, I mean, it depends on if they want to uphold their oath of office. We take an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. In doing so, we have stepped up to the plate to be custodians of the Constitution, to protect and defend the Constitution, to defend our democracy. Our responsibility to protect and defend is one that we are honoring. If they don't want to honor their oath of office, that's up to them. And the facts, so this is just a question of unfolding the facts so that everybody can make an informed decision as to how we go forward.
There are, right now, if you look at the latest CBS polling, it came out this week, and it shows over the past month, there's still some work Democrats need to do to move the needle to make their case. More than half of Americans approve the start of the inquiry, but more Americans feel the Democrats have done a bad job, 52%, handling the inquiry, than a good job, 48%. What's going wrong?
No, I completely disagree with that. When I made the statement, the day I spoke to the president on the phone about how we were going to proceed, the polls were 59% against inquiry and impeachment, 34% in favor. Now they're just about even. But we're not dominated by the polls. What we're dominated is by the facts and by the truth, and I do believe the truth will set us free. I couldn't be prouder than the work of Adam Schiff and our committee. But the facts are coming from the witnesses, and I think that they have been patriotic in their acknowledgement of the facts as they proceeded, and there's more to come. So this inquiry is not finished. But I don't subscribe to that at all, because we're not here about the polls, we're here about the truth.
You think Democrats have had a good week?
Well, I think the American people have had a good week. I think truth has had a good week. I think patriotism has had a good week. And I think the Constitution has got a good week. I don't think the president has had a good week.
Well, Republicans argue here.
You know what? If we could just talk about what we want to do. I really have a real discomfort level of responding to what Republicans say because they are in denial about what has happened in the country. So if you want to ask me about where we're going on this, I'm happy to respond to that. But I find it a waste of my time and yours to just be talking about what Republicans say.
Well, I want to just let you respond, though, to the argument that's being made in messaging by Republicans here, that the grounds for the impeachment...
Let it stand. Let their argument stand, because it's on such quicksand that I don't even want to have it given any more visibility by my dignifying any of their misrepresentations of what they say. And I say that out of great respect for you, because I respect you as a great journalist, and I'm honored to have this interview with you. But I say to everybody else, I'm not here to talk about what they say, because they're not facing the reality of what is happening to our country. And this is about our democracy that is at risk with this president in the White House.
So Chairman Schiff has said he learned of the whistleblower complaint September 9th. The aid was released days later, the military aid that's in question here. Do you see a connection there?
Of course, the president wasn't going to the Republicans like to say, if you want to talk about them, oh, it doesn't matter, the aid was released. No, the whistle was blown. The whistle was blown, and that was blown long before we heard about it. Don't forget that in between all of that came the Inspector General, an Inspector General appointed by President Trump. And the Inspector General said that this was of urgent concern. And so that is what intervened, the Inspector General's review of the whistleblower complaint. The president likes to skip the Inspector General, except when he wants to fire the Inspector General. But let me just say, this is an opportunity for America. It's a giant civics lesson. At the time of our revolution, Thomas Paine said that times have found us. Declare independence, fight a war, win, write our documents. Thank God they made them amendable. To the point where Benjamin Franklin said, when they asked a monarchy or a republic if we can keep it. We think the times have found us to keep that republic. from all enemies, foreign and domestic, as we take the oath to protect and defend the Constitution. And so that's what this is about. It's a sad testimony that the president is going to such lengths to keep the truth from the public and then say, you don't have a first-hand account because I won't let you have one. And we're saying, if you have other evidence to the contrary, let us see it.
You said this is a good civics lesson, so can you help walk the American people through what happens next? We have another week of hearings.
Yes.
There'll be an intelligence report written up, and then what? Does the president get, as he says, to confront his accuser or get due
What do you mean
process?
confront his accuser? Confront the whistleblower?
Presumably,
Well,
that's what
I
he means.
will make sure he does not intimidate the whistleblower. I was there, I told the president, you're in my wheelhouse when you come after the whistleblower. And this is really important, especially when it comes to intelligence, that someone who would be courageous enough to point out truth to power, and then through the filter of a Trump-appointed inspector general who found it of urgent concern, and then took it to the next steps. So the president could come right before the committee and speak all the truth that he wants if he wants to.
You don't expect him
if
to
he
do
wants
that.
to take the oath of office, or he could do it in writing. He has every opportunity to present his case. But it's really a sad thing. I mean, what the president did was so much worse than even what Richard Nixon did. But at some point, Richard Nixon cared about the country enough to recognize that this could not continue. But here's the thing. So how it goes is in this case, the Intelligence Committee is leading this part of the inquiry. There are other depositions that are being taken by more committees. And by the way, scores of Republicans, maybe 50, dozens of Republicans have a right to be in those meetings. So when they go barging in the door and all that, it's beneath the dignity of their office. But the scores of Republicans are on the committees of jurisdiction, maybe like 50 or something, maybe 2.5 scores.
47 or 48.
Yeah, so they have the right to be in all of those depositions. Sometimes they don't show up, but they have the right to be in the deposition. So some of the depositions will continue because they're the classified depositions, which like 3 of the committees witness, and then what takes place in the intelligence public will continue for another week. I don't know how much longer. I guess it depends on how many more witnesses they have. That's up to the committee. I don't guide that. That's up to the committee. And then after that, the normal course of events would be that the Judiciary Committee takes up the matter, should the decision be made to continue. And that, again, it's every step of the way a decision process.
Do you expect hearings in front of the Judiciary Committee as well?
No, they will have a hearing on, my understanding is the practice is that they will have a hearing on the definition of high crimes and misdemeanors, what the Constitution says, from legal and constitutional experts. That is my understanding, from what I have read. But again, we'll see how much longer the fact-finding, the truth revealing goes on, and then it would go to that place. And then at some point, when and if the decision is made to proceed, then it would be in the hands of the Judiciary Committee.
You expect that to be wrapped up before the end of the year?
I have no idea. Again, I don't have any.
No timetable for that?
No, I mean, it is self-evident that we have open hearings for the next week. I don't know if there are any beyond that. Then we're out for Thanksgiving. Doesn't mean depositions couldn't be taken during that time. And then when we come back, by then maybe a decision, or maybe they have more hearings. I mean, it's almost idle to be speculating on where these depositions and these hearings will take us until we see, and the committee will determine that. And then I have 6 committees who have been working on all of this, and those 6 chairmen have been very involved in how we will proceed.
Well, what they have uncovered, does that mean that'll be potentially included in an impeachment that you might broaden this beyond the issue related to Ukraine?
Well, that's not up for me. That's what the facts will determine. But let me just say this. At the same time as we are in the Congress proceeding in the manner in which we are, and I'm very proud of Adam Schiff and the members of the Intelligence Committee. We have a fabulously capable law enforcement people, lawyers, others who know their brief. And it's beautifully diverse and representing America as well, as I'm very proud to say. As that is proceeding, we're also proceeding in the courts. And this week we had another powerful decision by a court. Now the president is appealing it to the Supreme Court that the president should release his financial documents. We've won all of the cases in the court on this, whether it's a Deutsche Bank for his bank records, whether it is issues that relate to taxes or for the fuller documents. So that is proceeding at the same time. So as you see today, Roger Stone, 7 counts was it that he was found guilty? Manafort is in prison. Michael Cohen, the president's lawyer, is in prison. There's so much wrongdoing attached with all of this. But we have to keep it very precise in terms of the President of the United States and the Constitution of the United States. And that is what this is about. And it's very serious. It's not about politics. It's not about Democrats or Republicans. It's about patriotism. It's about our Constitution. And none of us came here to impeach a president. This is very sad. At the same time, as I say, we're trying to pass a trade bill, pass our appropriations bills, Voting Rights Act. We've sent for over 250 days legislation to Mitch McConnell to pass background checks, common sense background checks, which have the support of 90% of the American people. He hasn't moved any of it, whether it's background checks, climate action now, equal pay for equal work, raising the minimum wage, all of the issues that we're working on for the good of the American people. So this isn't, while this is a concentration of our conversation here, it's not what we do in a day. This is a working operation here, and that one aspect of it is being held by the Intelligence Committee and related committees. Most of the committees are at work today. On the floor of the House, we passed the reauthorization for the XM Bank. I think we maybe got a few Republicans, maybe a dozen Republicans to reauthorize the Export-Import Bank.
You met with the Treasury Secretary this week.
Yesterday.
Just yesterday. And he said the White House has no intention of allowing another government shutdown.
Agreed. We're all in agreement.
Are you confident you can avoid one?
Well, let us hope. Left to their own devices, the appropriators can avoid that. And I'm an appropriator. I'm from the culture of the Appropriations Committee and the Intelligence Committee. In those days, it was much more bipartisan, but I still believe that the appropriators can come to an agreement.
Does that mean Democrats will provide funding for the border wall?
No. No, we have well over $1 trillion worth of decisions to make. I don't know why we would go to that. The president hasn't built any new wall in the whole term of office. I think that his comments about the wall are really an applause line at a rally, but they're not anything that he's serious about.
When will the free trade deal, known as USMCA, be up for a vote?
When we have assurances that worker protections are provided. It's all about enforcement.
You said imminent recently.
Imminent. We're a long way from where we started. But I don't have a date when it'll come up because it cannot be any sooner than the trade representative agrees to the proper enforcement so that our workers really do get a better deal than they have in NAFTA. But I'm positive about everything. I'm always an optimist, and I believe everything is an opportunity. And I see this trade agreement as an opportunity for us not only to pass a trade agreement, but have it be so good that it would serve as a template for future trade agreements. So this isn't just something that the president can have. People say, why would you give him a victory? Well, it's not a victory for him. It's a victory for the American people and the American worker, if we can do it right.
So there are about 31 Democrats in districts that President Trump won in 2016, and they're going to have to make a tough decision when impeachment comes up for a vote.
Well, we've never asked anybody to be for the inquiry or be against the inquiry or be for impeachment.
But if they vote against impeachment?
Well, you know what, they have to make their own decisions. And no, again, you can ask any one of them. Nobody has ever asked them to be for an inquiry, be against an inquiry. I mean, many people were urging me to be for impeachment long before I thought we had the right case to make to the American people. So I never asked them to withhold or grant their support.
But there could be a political cost to it.
Well, I think that people don't. Please, I hope that the American people have a regard for the American people, that when we take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, that is much more important to us than any political considerations.
Final question. What is it like for you to go toe-to-toe with President Trump?
Sad, you know, as I say, none of us come here to impeach a president, and when a new president is elected, we wish that president success and hope that we can work together and find common ground. And I thought maybe we could on infrastructure, and I'm still hopeful. I thought we could on reducing the cost of prescription drugs, and I'm still hopeful. Cleaner government, which was the third leg of our stool of our campaign. Cleaner government, no, I don't think he's interested in that. But it is, I'm the Speaker of the House. Article 1, the legislative branch. Article 2, the executive branch. Article 3, the judicial branch. And I have a responsibility to strengthen the institution in which I serve as I honor my oath of office. I also believe we have a responsibility to find common ground where we can, stand our ground where we can't. And I had hoped that he would want it to be able to find some common ground. Is not a president who believes in governance. I've worked with President Bush before, and we did many things, passed the biggest energy bill in the history of the country, PEPFAR for HIV, AIDS, drugs, issues that related to fairness in terms of the tax code for poor people. And we did many things together.
Do you think it's different now, though, because you are so often the only woman in this room? I mean, that iconic photo of you after that recent clash at the White House with you standing up that the White House released.
No.
Is there something unique to that?
I was largely the only woman in the room when President Bush was president as well. But President Bush believed in governance, so you could find common ground. But if you don't believe that, in governance, then there's hardly any way to negotiate a solution. This is a very strange situation. But again, I say to people, you have to separate your differences on policy and save that for the election. That has nothing to do with whether the president is honoring his oath of office. So for a long time, just until the 24th of September was when I called for a fuller expansion. The inquiry was going on, but to proceed with the inquiry, and that kind of changed our communication until that day in the room when I said, all roads, Mr. President, with you lead to Putin. Whether it's giving them a stronger foothold in the Middle East by what you did with Turkey and Syria, or what you did by withholding withholding aid to military assistance voted by Congress to Ukraine to the benefit of Putin. 11,000, more like 13,000 by now, Ukrainians have died at the hands of the Russians. They needed that military aid. And with his disparaging remarks about NATO and questioning our commitment to NATO, that's to Putin's advantage. So we do have, shall we say, a candid relationship.
Madam Speaker, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.